Well, good morning again. Glad to have you with us, the Consulting Amigos. We're doing another expert topic for microgiants, and our panel today is myself, Ron Burgess, John Mills, and Ed Lasak. Each of us have been in business for decades and decades, and we've focused on small business for most of those decades. And we've all also done consulting with small businesses. So we have a pretty wide breadth of information that you're not going to get from some young buck who's telling you how to do marketing or how to do your bookkeeping. We're going to give you the real heavy duty experience that we all bring. Today, we're going to broach a subject that is new for most small business people, uh, and that's artificial intelligence, or AI. You've all heard about it. It's not a new subject really for anybody. If you have not heard about it, you better listen all the way through and get started, because it's going to be a part of your business. Um, AI, the artificial intelligence, they call them large language models, but there are three or four different types. We're not going to get into too many technical things. Well, maybe John will. I think he has the ability to talk about more the technology than I do. But there are several kinds of these. But what the interesting thing is that the application of AI as just a general tool is far and wide. It can do so many things for you that the question is, can you stay competitive if you don't use it for some parts of your business? So what parts of your business can you use it for? Um, and according to AI, Chat GPT, small business can use it for things like customer service scheduling, including chatbots and visual assistants. We've talked a little bit about that as a customer service issue before. Automated scheduling platforms are available, such as Acuity Scheduling or Calendly, 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 and that will help book appointments based on availability. So that's a pretty cool thing. Routing and logistics, we can come back to some of these. Predictive maintenance, which John's an expert at. Maintain marketing and customer retention. Those are all good things for service industry type people. If you happen to be a retailer, you want to have you may want some kind of a predictive tool for what to buy based on what is selling. You certainly want to keep track of your customers in a CRM type of tool. Inventory management. There are a lots. There's a lot to be said for that. And while I'm going to guess that inventory management from companies like Bright Pearl, programs like Bright Pearl and Inventory Planner try to predict customer trends. I spent many years in the retail industry in automated inventory management systems, and I would say that you have to be careful about that one, especially fashion. It's not going to be able to make very good predictions. I'd stay away from that piece. Um, Also, price optimization, marketing and customer retention, and customer feedback analysis. A lot of people are using SurveyMonkey to do customer analysis stuff. Um, and the question is, well, what does it really all mean? You can utilize tools for MailChimp and so forth in order to be, and it will do the analysis for you and tell you what your customers think about you. So let's talk though, we'll come back to some of these areas here. And as we wrap up, we'll talk about, what do you do to implement? But let's kind of talk about the whole issue of why would it be important for us and for small businesses to understand and get into these things just in terms of efficiency and competitiveness. I'll open it to you guys. Just jump in.
Well, I think any tool that's out there that can help you optimize your business, do a better job of servicing your customers, and improving your bottom line and valuation of your company is something you have to look into. It's very important for your future. Unfortunately, many people don't have the time to really invest in this, so they never really get started and they don't see the real true benefits of it. That's why we always say it's really good to work outside of your business rather than being day to day 24/7 in your
Mm.
business because you just don't have the time to look at these opportunities.
Yeah, good point.
Everything is based upon trying to figure out how to optimize your business and improve its valuation. This is a great tool that can really help immensely, but unfortunately, most people don't know a lot about it and don't have the time to research it. So maybe they can gain some pearls of wisdom from John and yourself on this issue.
So I'm not sure about the pearls of wisdom, but I do know that businesses share, I mean, most businesses share common uh, problems and objectives. And that is when something happens, when there's an event, it's like, what is the outcome of that event and what are the best solutions for it? Most businesses out there have set up a standard list of procedures for the things that routinely happen, whether it's a sales order or whether it's receiving inventory. There's a procedure that's set up that's very predictable, and we understand that. And there's a lot of ERPs and there's a lot of systems that customize for that. What AI is looking at can potentially doing is looking at the entire business, not just a subsection of it. One of the applications that you could envisage it for in a maintenance and support environment is that every single physical article could be documented and put through as a geolocation, as size, shape, weight, as age of service. And this is, of course, takes a lot of human time to do it. But if that was done, then anything that an event that happened, you'd automatically know where you had alternative product, how many was it in inventory, where they were located, what the current cost of that product is, whether there's an upgrade path. I mean, so it takes all of this logistic thinking and compresses it to microseconds. So I see that as being a what I would call an application specific use of AI, that you could take an industry and say, well, let's just focus on this particular industry and fine tune it. And then you've got the very broad spectrum of every aspect of your business. How do we do that? And so you're basically reinventing the way we do business, but the fundamentals of business don't change. At, at the core of it, it's how do we provide a service and take care of somebody else's problem, because businesses exist to solve somebody else's problem or desire or need. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of what we're trying to do. Can we do it in a better way?
I think you're right on point, John. The business principles are really not going to change. What I think most of this, I mean, well, I'll go ahead and say it. I think what most of the benefit is going to be for small business, at least on the short term or when you get started, is really operational, as you mentioned. How can you do things better, faster, easier? It doesn't mean that margins are not going to be important in the future. It might mean that it can make you more efficient and increase your margins, but it's not going to change the basic format of how business is used. Now, the caveat that kind of slowed me down there for a second is that there are some strategy types of opportunities too. And that would be, I've got a problem and I need to do something about that problem. And you might be able to load that in even with some numbers and so forth and say, okay, give me an analysis of, you know, what I can do about this problem or how I can save money, et cetera. And I do think that there will be that kind of service available. They're already trying to do that. I'm not sure that it's ready to just run rampant. And because if you don't understand strategic planning now, having AI is not going to help you evaluate whether or not it's the right strategic plan. It will be able to tell you if you have the right plugins and the right data. It might be able to tell you how your market share is doing in some narrow area and go find some data for you to kind of put together. But it's not going to be able to forecast very well whether or not your inventory should be increased or decreased based on where your market position is and the trends in that market are going. You still have to utilize some, fairly good experiential judgment in order to be able to make those decisions.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it depends on, of course, as you and I know, should we increase inventory or should we decrease it based on the orders we had in? Well, if you're talking about New Year's Eve and people who want to, buy sparklers and things spur of the moment, you say, "Wow, look at we've sold 10,000 of these on New Year's Eve. Let's go put in 10,000 a day." So then you have a repeating order for January, February, and March of 10,000 a day.
Yeah.
We know that doesn't make sense,
Right?
because so what it comes down to is the time frame you're making those decisions over. Over a period of time, AI is going to be self-adaptive and will understand, as McDonald's basically has built in. They've already had this running for over 30 years. They understand on high humidity days that when kids are in school, there's going to be a certain call at between 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock for certain events.
Right.
They have put this in their predictive pattern of employment. They've done this over the last 24 years, and they've also figured out how to load up employees in the store based on a lot of these temperature variables and days of the year, and whether kids are in school or out of school, and whether that particular McDonald's is located close to a school.
Yeah.
This is not new stuff. This analysis has been going on. We may say AI will make it better, maybe it will, but the actual fundamental thinking has been going on for over 3 decades.
Oh,
and McDonald's
yeah.
actually is the classic example of this, because they did a national supply chain consortium with themselves so that they can get the stuff on time to the right places based on the weather conditions, based on the usage. And so it's been going on. There's nothing new. It's just a new version.
It's right. And you're absolutely right. And it's a little older than that, as a matter of fact, John, because I started doing that 50 years ago. And
the diminutive form, though, Ron, not quite like what we've got.
No, I mean, you're talking about influence of weather on what you're selling. And if you happen to be selling boots in Colorado,
there you go.
The first snow is very important. You need to know and understand that. And that was taught to me by a man who was in his 70s, and he was doing that in the 20s. So, department stores, in fact, when we checked out every night, when I became a manager, we were still recording things on a giant pad, and every single night we would put what the day's weather was, so that we could go back and look at those numbers for the day, categories of merchandise, numbers for the day. What was the weather like? Was it the first snow, the second snow, early snow, late snow? Did it rain? Was there a lot of heat? So we would put just basic stuff like that, so you had just a little bit of a leg up. Now, here's my big point on this. I mean, you're exactly right. It's been around, and this is going to help. But small businesses don't have that data. They don't take the time to put in a few variables based on what has happened to their business that day, that week, that month. And so in order for it to help an individual business, you've got to have the data to load in to it, or it's looking at nothing.
Correct.
So,
Well, here
so
we're recording this on day 3 of power outages for a very large swath of the
yeah. And
inland
if
empire
we
in Los
disappear,
Angeles.
you'll know what's happened to
Well,
us.
and part of the deal is there have been truckloads of generators driving to California, and there
Yes.
have been sales specials at a lot of the stores for generators. How did they know?
Well,
Well,
they didn't.
well, no, but it's happening. There's been
Well, the
some of
interesting,
the big retailers, the guys who sell
they have.
Generac or whatever they happen to be, they are shipping them as soon as they know these events are happening. They're shipping them
Yes.
ahead of time.
So I'll give you a real life first person story. Well, it's a second person. My daughter-in-law, they have been out of power since Wednesday. So, 2, 3 days. My daughter-in-law is getting a little tired of this. Fortunately, we're close enough to where she can bring her clothes over and use our power, etc. She decided that they needed a generator for the refrigerator and a few basic elements like that. Uh, my son was a little slow in responding to that. I mean, he did look around, did price. He said, I don't think we really need to do that. They're sold out anyway. And, he went to work. So yesterday, she goes down to Costco and gets in line to wait for the next, I don't know, 40, 50, 60, 70 of them that they know are going to be delivered. The line was 4 hours long.
And
And so,
Costco knew, and they were shipping because they have dealt with localized
oh
emergencies for
yeah.
years.
And they
So
they
they
know,
just have a storehouse,
yeah.
they move them. Yeah,
They
I rest my
certainly
case.
they certainly do know how to do this. And so as the power outages are at, and I'm sure that they're sophisticated enough, if they're not using AI already, they're sophisticated enough to be able to say, okay, we're watching where all the outages are from the various electrical companies as well as internet, et cetera. And we're going to anticipate that there are going to be outages in these regions. And so we need to start grabbing from regions that are not having power outages and rebalance our inventory. Now, and that you can do with current inventory systems in a fashion. Big companies know how to do that. We were doing that as a little company, utilizing software that was very, very smart based on sell-throughs and ratios, and looking at last year and not last week, and doing that 35, 40 years ago.
So I've got a hypothetical for you. I would like to have available to me a application specific AI library. And what I'd like to have that look like is I have a lot of standard operating procedures for running our particular business. They're all Word documents or PDFs, combination of pictures associated to documentation and technical details. And I would like to find a company who I can say, hey, I want to log on to you and have you as now part of our knowledge bank, our question and answer bank, and I want to feed you every one of our SOPs. And this is private, it's for
Mhm.
us, it's not to be publicized to the world. And I want you to keep this as our thing. I'm prepared to pay you, 20 or 30 bucks a month, whatever it is. And then I've got a query engine that I basically say, hey, I've got a problem with XYZ. And up comes the relevant pictures, documents, procedures, and options. I don't know what's happening with my video, but it's flickering on my screen. Is it flickering on your screen?
Yeah, we saw just a real quick flicker.
Yeah.
It looked like
Um,
he moved across the screen and back, but
yeah.
he was
So
okay.
that to me would be a service that would be a subset of a generalized AI that is very specific for my particular business sector. I see this. One example would be a specialty store that delivers products focused on a particular area, and it could be, in fact, a friend of mine developed a database system for wine stores across the country, and every independent wine store could log into this database that would share the vintage, the make model of all of the various wines that were available in local areas, and they would have a pre-agreed arrangement to ship cases of wine from one store to another at a nominal surcharge for people who wanted to buy it somewhere else in the country. And that actually worked pretty well. So you could go into your local store and you say, I like this particular vintage. Can you get me any more? And the wine store operator, not the individual, the wine store operator would have the ability to go, oh, yeah, I can get that for you in 2 days. Well, it was coming from another store in 200 miles away or wherever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, you know, AI is going to enable something that I dreamed about in 1988. And that was because I had already finished a software application that did automatic balancing of inventory across different retail stores based on sell-throughs and seasonality. The only problem with that is that it only works for one store. Not one store, one company, multiple stores. I did this all the time. We did weekly transfers among 7
so
stores.
this was for multiple independently owned stores.
No, it was for
No, this is what I'm talking
yeah.
about
And
was for
so
that.
and so at the time I was thinking to myself, and I did, it takes too long to tell this, but experiment, but I lowered the price so that I increased my volume and I started messing with a very popular item. And I started messing with different margins and stuff just to kind of test things and test the ideas of volume versus margin, et cetera. It was then that I realized that the restrictions on how much I could do was based on the supply of additional inventory beyond my own. So if I was doing really well because I lowered the price and I could start sucking inventory from other places, I could do a lot of business. That's when I realized that the day would come when these systems would be integrated across different companies and inventory sharing would begin to happen so
Correct.
that the inventory would automatically move to the place where it was the hottest. And that is going to be possible. I have no doubt. Now, this is not for small companies to try and integrate this, but you could buy into a service like that where you are looking at who's selling it the most and who gets the inventory. You have a lot of logistics agreements that have to be done as to what's the price you're going to pay and that kind of thing. But that's ultimately where we're going to go in terms of inventory efficiency.
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. You got that on. Well, so as we leave people here today, excuse me, the question is, how do you get started? What do you do next? I have a few bullet points here.
Okay.
Okay.
First, choose one area. Now, you kind of indicated this a little bit, John. Choose an area, start with the most pressing point that you have, like inventory management or customer service. Where do you need something fixed? You pick the tools that will integrate easily. Look for AI tools that work with your current system, you know, like for your your POS or your e-commerce platform, et cetera. Educate your team. In other words, you got to train your team to understand what to do with it. Start small. And then monitor your results. Set clear metrics to evaluate the impact of AI on your business. And finally, integrate that with your other stuff. So you can get started on this, and you can start small. So Ed, you've been listening intently. Give us
Yeah, and I'm learning a lot, and
give us your overview of what we've said here today and how it can, you know, how that can affect a small business's profitability.
well, I think it comes down to what you're interested in, and you start in that area, like you said, and you try to find opportunities to improve your business in that area by researching what AI can do. And I think a lot of people are going to have to get educated more on this. And I would think universities and training companies would have more opportunities for people to learn how to use it more effectively and what it can do. Because otherwise, you're kind of just shooting in the dark. It does make sense to experiment and learn more about it so that you can see how it can help you with some of your challenges of running your business.
Mhm.
but you really have to have that overall knowledge as to what it can do. And in this program, you can see John, who's more of an IT guy, he's got probably a better handle on this than a guy like me who's more of a general business guy. So, but I see the opportunities here, and it requires allocating some time to learn more about it and find opportunities for your business.
Yeah. John, can small business survive if they don't pay attention to this, say 5 years from now?
Yeah, I think they can survive. I mean, it's like when paper was replaced by computers. You know, people said, well, if you're not working on computers, you're going to go out of business. Well, that's kind of partially true, but really, there's a lot of people who still operate with paper and pencil, and they go about and do their business fine. I mean, it can be. I think the trick is you're leaving a lot of efficiency unconnected
Mhm.
and possibly a growth of the business. But if you don't want to grow the business, particularly, and you just want to have a high degree of social contact and good customer service, there's no reason why you can't thrive um, without doing it.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that's going to happen is every service that you engage is going to have an AI operating in the background somewhere. So
Mhm.
by default, small business is going to have AI backing it up
Yeah.
somewhere down the road. Even if they don't like it, it's going to be there.
Yeah, I would say that to kind of caution about trying to invent something yourself. You listed some things you would like to do for your business, but you were not talking about inventing anything or writing any code. You're talking about finding the right mini apps that could fit, maybe get a little bit of outside help so that you could use what you currently do and streamline what you currently do. Um, you can waste a lot of money trying to build something if you're the first one because you think your business is so unique. And certainly don't start with those. I mean, it's so easy to start with writing a letter. If you haven't used Chat GPT yet, tell it to write a customer letter for one of the problems that you've had recently. Go back and revise the letter, utilize that, feedback what you did and didn't like to chat, and have it revise the letter so that you can see that this thing is malleable and you can use it starting today. You can use that to communicate with your customers more effectively. If you do a lot of emails to your customers about certain issues and is my order on time and that kind of thing, you can put the parameters that you want to include in there verbally, and it'll write the email for you, and you can cut and paste it and send it off. You would be able to increase your correspondence to your customers probably by 4 times. And so instead of the uh, 6 emails that it takes you to do an hour, you'll be able to do 20 emails an hour. That means you can do billable work more, you can manage more, you can look for other opportunities, you can learn more about AI because you do that. It'll do calculations. I believe you can teach it how to do invoices and by plugging certain numbers in and giving descriptions. So there are so many things that can be done that you just do from a clerical perspective. If you're a small business, you're doing all of that clerical stuff yourself and you're not doing enough of it. Now you can do more and start there. But boy, I would say give it a try. And
I love the idea of utilizing for feedback from your customers.
mhm,
We always talk about how important it is to have customers and being on the forefront on whatever they want, being the first to be able to give them
yeah.
what they're looking for. It just seems like this tool would really fit well in that space.
I believe so, especially if you can, monitor it a little bit to make sure it's really, really nice. The big companies haven't gotten there yet. These outages that we're having around here in Southern California, I had some questions about my internet the other day. I found that my provider was terrible at its customer service. Now, they're at maximum capacity with questions. I get that. But the chat should have been nicer and better and easier than it was. Now, when you're evaluating something like internet service beyond, say, speed and uptime, you're looking at customer service as the only differentiator. Well, I was about ready to start looking for a new internet service because they simply hadn't taken the time to develop something that was reasonable. Like, why can't you tell me my status based on my address?
Yeah,
Several of the
that makes
competitors
it- yeah.
can do that, but I couldn't find that out because of the way that they had written their software and or their website. So customer service is we talked about this before. It's an area small business can exceed in. You need to be good at it, and when you get overwhelmed, this is a way to really help your customer service a lot. So that's a nice place to get started. So
Another opportunity, I think, is in the accounting world, and that's my background. And there are roughly 25,000 pages of authoritative guidance that accountants have to follow in generating financial
it's
statements.
almost as bad as a tax
Can you
bill.
imagine? It's very similar. And then you add the tax requirements on top of it. It's pretty profound. But think about it, 25,000 pages of authoritative guidance that you're responsible for in doing a financial statement. It's pretty overwhelming. And how
Yeah.
many people have the skills to be able to do that correctly?
Yeah.
Obviously, if you ask 10 accountants to figure out a solution or do financial statements, you may come up with 10 different answers. So there you go. It's a real challenge. And the real challenge becomes if there's a problem with the company and the company goes out of business and everybody wants to sue. And then they go back at the financial statements and they say, well, you missed the pronouncement on page 19,056. You didn't do that one exactly the way you were supposed to. So I think there's a lot of
I've been there.
opportunities
I've been
there.
there.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of opportunities there to provide more useful information to practitioners and doing their
Right.
jobs.
It's really great at just answering questions. Now, John has been able to get it to loop on itself and kind of drive its brain a little bit crazy. And I was able to do that today when I was trying to get it to do a presentation for me for this program. It did a wonderful presentation. It put it into a PowerPoint. But when I asked it to add appropriate images, it thought it was doing it, but it just kept giving me blank ones. So it's not perfect yet. But in terms of just asking a question and giving you a starting answer that you can kind of start thinking about, okay, now where do I need to go next? What do I need to ask next? Who should I go see? Wow. I mean, it's an advisor for you at your fingertips right now. And you can start playing with that, and you need to start doing it. So, well, gentlemen, I think we've just about come to the end. Do you want to have a closing comment there, John?
Yeah, I have one summary statement about that. I use Meta AI. It's a subset of WhatsApp, and I'm not advocating it or otherwise. It's just been one that I have. It's available on my smartphone. It's available on my computer, so it's very easy to do it. Whatever I ask on my smartphone, I end up seeing the answers on my computer. So it's functionally very easy. I've used it from asking theologically intense questions to vehicle maintenance, very specific issues, and then obtuse issues about songwriters and songs. And as would be predicted, and everybody knows this, if you ask very specific information and you dictate metricated ideas, it will give you very specific answers. If you the wider the net and the more oblique you've got, you're going to get generic
Mhm.
non-specific answers back, which is a little frustrating because you're looking for a
Good
definitive
point. Yeah.
outcome. So very much it is on the art of the question. And I think this is any good reporter knows, any good investigator knows, any good researcher knows. The question is really what gets you the answer.
Yeah.
So
Right. The question is very important, and everybody needs to experiment with it and see what, keep asking a question and see how much better it gets, because the talent will be how to ask the question in terms of initial use. Yeah. Closing comments, Ed?
I think it's a great tool and something every business owner has to spend more time learning. But one thing it won't replace, and that's professional judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Professional judgment will always be important in coming up with important evaluations that need to be done. It can help collect information for that professional judgment, but it ain't going to replace it.
Yeah. Right. Very good. All good advice and good discussion. Thank you very much, and we will see you all next week.
Okay.